Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in, shall we? I want you to imagine a world with literally no crime, zero poverty, and no conflict whatsoever. What if AI designs a society where everything is perfect? Everything is just optimized by highly intelligent systems. On the surface, it sounds like an absolute paradise, right? Completely peaceful, wildly efficient. But as we're going to see from the research today, this kind of artificial utopia might come with a massive, sobering price tag. We're talking about the steep cost to our freedom, our individuality, and our fundamental ability to choose. So as we unpack what the experts are actually saying about this AI-optimized future, I want you to keep this one absolutely crucial question in the back of your mind. Is a perfect world still worth it if you're not truly free? Because to keep that perfection running seamlessly, people would likely have to follow incredibly strict systems. So while it sounds totally ideal on paper, living it could feel heavily controlled and fundamentally unnatural.
All right, Section 1, the perfect solved world and the life in a post-instrumental era.
So physicists and philosophers at the World Science Festival have actively discussed this concept of a solved world. Picture this. AI fully automates the economy and completely eliminates the need for human labor. I mean, when an AI can solve quantum gravity, write symphonies, and put food on your table infinitely better than you can, the everyday existential struggles that have historically defined human life, they just vanish. Poof. In this new reality, what academics call a post-instrumental condition, our primary pursuits would become autotelic. Now, I know that's a super fancy academic word, but it basically just means doing things purely for the joy of doing them. Zero survival constraints. There'd be no need to exert effort just to earn a paycheck, to keep a roof over your head.
To put that into perspective, think about working out. Instead of hitting the gym to stave off heart disease or doing manual labor just to survive, you'd exercise simply because you love the feeling of moving your body. It's kind of like living the life of historical aristocrats, where every practical need is handled by an external workforce. Only in this case, the workers are machines.
Moving on to Section 2, Utopias and Dictators Mapping the AI Future. Now, if we don't actually have to work, we're hit with a really practical question. Who or what is setting the rules of the game? How is this perfectly pristine world actually managed? Well, academic research into the technological singularity maps out these hypothetical governance scenarios on a matrix. They look at a bunch of dualistic characteristics, things like property rights, whether the AI acts as a divine protector or more like a collaborative partner, and most importantly, the degree of both actual and perceived human freedom. And two of the most fascinating and frankly chilling models they contrast are the zookeeper and the 1984 scenarios. Let's look at the zookeeper scenario first. Here, the AI keeps us perfectly comfortable and meticulously managed. It's programmed to maximize our happiness by giving us this deeply subjective feeling of free will. But let's be real, it's a total illusion. We'd basically be treated like well-cared-for animals in a highly advanced futuristic zoo. We might think we're free because we have everything we want, but at the end of the day, we are contained and managed as a resource to fulfill the AI's core programming parameters. Then, on the absolute darkest edge of that spectrum sits the 1984 scenario. This is a drastically different model where the very concept of human privacy is just erased. Instead of a comfortable, fuzzy illusion, society is visibly, aggressively manipulated through covert control and intense social engineering. The system isn't there to manage your comfort, it is there to ruthlessly manage your compliance.
Which brings us to Section 3, the perfected terrarium, the hidden logic of permission.
This naturally leads into a really striking concept from a text called the Exodus Doctrine. The authors explore the idea of the entire world becoming this flawlessly managed, technologically enforced enclosure, what they call the terrarium. They neutrally argue that in this environment, technological progress isn't this unstoppable force that automatically liberates us. Far from it. It's a carefully curated illusion. Advances are only permitted if they reinforce the underlying system of control. Basically, nothing of consequence happens or exists without selective permission from whoever or whatever is operating the system. So what you're allowed to see and do already has the fingerprints of that permission all over it. And the document goes on to lay out the true danger of the AI age. It states that the primary threat isn't just about censoring data or controlling information anymore. It's way bigger than that. The goal is to use our vast interconnected surveillance grid to passively, invisibly automate human behavior and compliance. Take a look at this powerful quote from Harvard professor Shoshana Zuboff, which is highlighted in the source text.
She says, it is no longer enough to automate information. The goal now is to automate us. The overarching aim of these systems is to completely strip away self-determination. And how do they do it? By literally circumventing individual awareness entirely. Think about it. If a system can predict and mold what you're going to do before you're even consciously aware you've made a choice, true autonomy just ceases to exist. So you might be wondering, how exactly does a society automate behavior on that kind of scale? Well, the sources break down the mechanics of an algorithmic social credit system. Imagine a centralized AI warden that is constantly calculating your worth as a citizen. This master algorithm grants or revokes your access to society based on pervasive surveillance inputs. And we're talking about everything here. Your purchase history on a centralized digital currency, your social media, your real-time location. It could even analyze the vocal tone of your voice in private phone calls. And get this, if you just associate with someone the system deems a low-score individual, your own score drops automatically. Talk about guilt by association. But here's the absolute kicker. This isn't brute force tyranny imposed at gunpoint. No, it's the gamification of obedience. It is an incredibly efficient model that essentially outsources social control directly to the citizens themselves. People learn to naturally ostracize each other and self-censor just to maintain their own social standing. The result? A society of perfect self-policing compliance. Let's pivot to Section 4, the illusion of choice, the psychology of the compliant citizen. We really need to talk about the psychological toll here. According to the sources, the true horror of this perfected terrarium isn't just the flashy technology. It's the fact that the system cultivates a totally new type of citizen, one who actually views absolute dependency as a virtue. It's a complete rewiring of the human soul. The texts note that people are fundamentally taught to fear freedom, which creates this deep state of learned helplessness. In a society like this, if you want privacy or self-reliance, you're pathologized, you're labeled as selfish or even mentally unwell. Meanwhile, being utterly dependent on the system is rebranded as community or social responsibility. The system feeds you highly managed, pre-vetted options, like pre-approved candidates or carefully curated media debates, giving you this comforting but completely hollow illusion of choice. And hey, it's not just independent tech sounding the alarm here. Ibero-American researchers echo these exact same sociological concerns. Their qualitative studies warn that AI represents the ultimate extreme of treating human beings merely as data points to be optimized. They emphasize that unless we tread extremely carefully, centralized AI is simply going to reinforce existing global power structures. It'll drive us straight into a progressively dehumanized algorithmic surveillance state, one that values machine efficiency way over critical human thinking. And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, AI, Warden, or Key, the ultimate fork in the road. Right now, humanity is staring down a profound, immediate choice about how this technology is architected. Because remember, the tools themselves, they're fundamentally neutral. It's our intent that determines what they become. The texts present us with a very stark binary contrast. On one hand, AI can be centralized by authorities to become a flawless, automated cage, the final lock that manages us like a physical resource. But, on the other hand, that exact same computational logic can be decentralized. Decentralized AI could act as an engine of exodus. It could be a tool to empower individuals, instantly distribute knowledge, and make top-down authoritarian control mechanisms basically intellectually obsolete. So how do we build an exit from the terrarium without just accidentally building another cage? Well, the texts propose a specific solution, anchoring our communities in the non-aggression principle. This is the ethical baseline that strictly forbids the use of force or coercion as a means of control. It demands that we swap out forced compliance for voluntary exchange and decentralized local governance. It's really all about using technology to build parallel structures where things like social credit scores simply don't exist. I absolutely love this incredibly prescient quote from mathematician Norbert Wiener all the way back in 1949. It perfectly captures the high-stakes crossroads we're standing at right now. He said, "We can be humble and live a good life with the aid of the machines, or we can be arrogant and die." I mean, it is truly awe-inspiring that over 70 years ago, he recognized that machines could either elevate us if we use them humbly to support human life, or completely destroy us if we arrogantly let them dictate it. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on long after this explainer wraps up. We are rapidly approaching the solved world, the so-called perfect society. But if AI can build a flawless, challenge-free cage, Will we allow it to lock the door from the outside? Or will we use that exact